Hi, everybody. My name is Gal. I'm the CEO and co-founder at Cravocate. So excited to have you here on the Customer Marketing Summit this year. It's great. So many people are meeting together, sharing best practices, knowledge, and networking. I recommend that you find at least one thing that you can implement even in Q4 this year in your company, which would be great. I also invite you to join our customer marketing Slack group together with HubSpot. Just reach out to us and we'll add you in. And to come to my session later today is going to talk about 7 things I've learned from some of the greatest customer marketers out there. Enjoy.
Whether you're joining a Product Marketing Alliance event for the first time, or if you're a seasoned regular, welcome to the second edition of the Customer Marketing Summit. Before we dive into the day's content, we just want to say a huge thank you to our sponsors, partners, speakers, and you, our lovely audience. From wherever you are watching in the world, we're sure you'll enjoy the sessions from our incredible lineup. With expert presentations, specialist talks, and deep dive panel sessions on the agenda, you are in for a real treat today. To get the most out of these sessions, please ensure you are sharing your feedback and asking all your questions in the comments section, and our speakers will be answering them throughout the day. After the event, a great place to continue the conversation is in the customer marketing channel in the PMA Slack community. If you aren't already a member, hop on over and come and join the discussion. And if that's still not enough, then why not become a PMA Pro member and benefit from unlimited access to exclusive templates, frameworks, and our entire library of videos and slide decks from all our events. So with all that to come, let's dive right into the next session.
Hey there everyone, my name is John Ashley and I am the head of global customer advocacy at the accountancy software firm Sage. And today I wanted to share with you some insights into the world of customer advocacy and talk around my 5 top tips for scaling your advocacy program. Now, it doesn't matter where you are in your advocacy-led initiatives. I hope that from this session today, there'll be something for everyone to take away, even if it's just one thing. So in this session, we're going to cover 3 main topics. The first is the shifting challenge for sales and marketing. Then we'll talk around how you can scale your program, and then 5 tips to consider. Now, first of all, let's talk about the shifting challenge that sales and marketing face. And I'll be honest, it's tough out there. From a selling perspective, there's been a real balance shift over probably, I'd say, the last 10 years that has really empowered the buyer to be able to make decisions without the need to consume traditional marketing content. It's harder than ever to get a message into the hands of buyers. Buyers are more likely to listen to the opinions of colleagues, of their friends, of their family, and they really treat anything marketing says or does with a certain degree of skepticism, and they are more cautious than ever before. And that's quite right. Buyers ask harder questions of businesses because they want more from what they buy. Today, businesses need to consider so much more than just the standard model of marketing. And there are so many other factors that drive this buying decision. For example, is your brand authentic in what it says? Is the brand stable? Do I see the value of what this brand offers? What's your reputation? How seriously do you take corporate social responsibility? What's the policy for ethics, for sustainability and the environment? And are you trusted? Are you a trusted voice in what you're doing? Is what you're saying valid? And what do others think of you? And do you have a positive company culture? all that adds up to one thing. Do I trust this brand? And that means the needs of the customer now go far beyond simple product, price, place, and promotion marketing activities. Now, trust needs to be earned. Trust is a major factor of the buying decision. We know that. But you also have to ask yourself, what are the trustworthy sources? Is it the marketing message, or is it the recommendation of your friend, your colleague, or your family member? And I'll give you a perfect example. If you're in the market for a new mobile phone, you're more likely to ask a friend, a colleague, or a peer, or a family member, because if they're using the phone, you're more likely to trust their opinion. You're less likely to trust that of, say, a salesperson inside a shop. Now, they will give you good advice, but you want to know you're making the right decision. So there's always this thought in the back of your mind that maybe the salesperson is trying to sell you something they want to sell you rather than what actually meets your needs. Now, this is especially true because trust and this new self-empowerment gives sales and marketing people a real headache. If you think about it, to show that you're trusted means you need to have a completely customer-focused or obsessed culture, and that starts within your business, and it starts at all levels. It's from research and development through to support, to customer success, to HR, to PR, to AR. I'd even say the cleaners should be involved. But that really defines how your organization shapes itself and how you are perceived. Once you have that in place, it means you can really focus on walking the walk and talking the talk, but from a customer's perspective, because it's much more genuine. Having a customer-obsessed organization is a major factor in driving real voice of the customer marketing content, and that often leads to a winning and rewarding customer loyalty or advocacy program. And the facts around why it's so important speak for themselves. For example, did you know that 89%, 89% of potential buyers will seek out reviews to help them with their buying decision? 92% of potential buyers trust peer recommendations. That very thing we've just been speaking about accounts for 92% of that decision making. So that's friends, that's family, that's colleagues, and certainly don't underestimate the power and reach of the so-called influencer. Now, 79% of potential buyers actively look for success stories or case studies, or even simple testimonials that just gives them the reassurance that they're making an informed buying decision because someone else has already done it. Now, 58% of customers say they leave a brand because they just don't feel valued anymore. They're not being looked after. So all of that hard work that's gone into acquiring that customer is lost because they just don't feel valued. There's no engagement with them. The truth is, businesses need advocates and they need to take them seriously. You have a 60% better chance of winning business when you insert a reference advocate, a reference customer, into the sales deal. Advocates of a brand stay longer, and they're worth 20 times the value of the original purchase over the lifetime of the relationship. How many times have you heard businesses talking about lifetime customer value or customer retention, only to see plans and slides that just talk about new customer acquisition? And of course, when it comes to trust, it's not just based on price. There are lots of other factors you need to take into account. So for example, we have 3 sets of trainers or sneakers, each with a different value proposition. The value proposition with the first set on the left is that it's Nike. The middle pair come from a well-known, low-cost supermarket chain. The ones on the right-hand side are just knockoffs. They're not really based on anything. They've been made on the cheap and they're trying to use someone else's brand. But the thing is, depending on where you are, if you're a brand advocate for Nike, or you're a brand advocate for Lidl, or you just want something cheap, What people say about this will sway your decision. Now, Nike, for example, are not immune to poor customer service. They have experienced poor customer service. But from an advocate's perspective, is that enough to stop them from buying a Nike trainer? No, because advocates are much more willing to forgive the occasional slip up, the occasional blip. They're less focused on price, they're more focused on the brand. Now, in the middle, we have a pair of Lidl trainers. Now, they're perfectly functional, they do the job, they're just, well, you can see they're Lidl, but people will buy them. And the interesting thing about this is, although they're only £13 to buy in the shop today, people buy them and then they resell them for huge amounts of money. Now, I'm not saying for one moment that that's the right thing to do. You should be buying the brand based on, is it comfortable? Is it something I want to wear out? Would you actually wear these out at all? You may not. But again, it's the trust of the brand. Why have they even produced this? Finally, on the right-hand side, of course, most people would not buy a knockoff trainer, but you'd be surprised. Now, in all three of those examples, there's a degree of trust. In the far left-hand corner for Nike, it's about trusting their brand. It's a global brand that everyone recognizes. It has a degree of desire about it. On the far right-hand side, you're probably only ever going to buy that if it's a joke, or you just think, do you know what, for £2, I'm going to chance it. But there are certain things throughout this journey that determine which one you buy and the reasons why you buy them. Now, if you look at the traditional buying journey, we all know this is all based around interest, awareness, consideration, purchase. That sales cycle has been done to death a million times. But isn't it interesting when you take that to one side and you overlay advocacy? Marketers traditionally aren't focused on customers who have bought. They're more focused on the desire to find new customers. And that can sometimes be costly, it can be inefficient. The marketing stack always tends to focus more on customer acquisition than it does on anything else. That's fine. This is where advocacy comes in. This is why we're seeing a shift and a real kind of generation of new advocate marketers being born. Advocacy focuses on the needs of the customer, as we saw earlier, but that is a journey in itself. And as a tip, your decision on where to include your advocates in your program really depends on where they are in their journey to advocacy. Now, you can use the NPS scale here to monitor where your advocates are. You may even have a policy that says you'll bring advocates into your program at the enthusiast level, but most of us will bring them in at the advocate level. And the reason we do this is because they're more willing to get involved in things like references, referrals, reviews, and other acts of advocacy. Every advocate will start as a user. And as long as they're kept happy, they will progress. They will become an enthusiast. They will become a loyalist. They will become an advocate. But it's how you treat them through that journey. Now, most advocacy programs will engage at the advocate level, as we've said. You'll be able to judge this through sentiment and tools such as NPS. But the advocate stage is critical. This is where your opportunity comes in to nurture that advocate, to become even more loyal, and to engage your advocates in other types of activities. Traditionally, a small-scale advocacy program will focus on the basics, the references, the reviews, the referrals. But there are so many other things you could do which engage your advocates at an entirely new level and will enhance every element of your advocacy approach, including sales and marketing. In fact, depending on the scale of your program, your resources and your strategic ambition, there are so many different ways and different acts of advocacy that you can use as a secret weapon. The voice of the customer, the voice of the advocate, is one of the most powerful things you can capture, but it goes so much further than traditional acts, such as the case studies and the testimonials. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a lot on this slide, and you may be wondering how you can do all this, but it is possible. If you have the right tools, the right resources, you have the buy-in from your business, you have the support of your senior leaders, you can achieve a myriad of results by putting the customer at the heart and center of everything you do in advocacy and by engaging them. So can you scale the advocacy program that you have today, or have you even started your advocacy journey? Let's take a look at a couple of things. Even if you have an advocacy program today, it may be a simple program, it could be more advanced, but in either example, there are elements that you need to consider if you want to grow your simple program or evolve to an advanced program, or even evolve your advanced program. If you want to grow your program, then look at the foundations of what you have. Whilst it's a big step, you'll need to have your business supporting you and understanding what you can achieve. A simple advocacy program can be things like covering the fundamentals. You could just be doing success stories. You could just be doing blogs with customers. You could just be asking them to provide you testimonial quotes that you can use in marketing material. But your interaction with these customers is probably on an as and when basis. It's probably as you require that type of content. It could be limited, it could be manual. You could have a very small scale approach to how you reward and recognize and incentivize your customers. You may have some tools and reporting that might be limited. I've seen good advocacy programs that use Microsoft Excel, they use traditional email resources, but they're unable to scale. And the reason they're unable to scale is because those type of tools are quite difficult to use when you start to bring in more advocates. Now, an advanced advocacy program gives you much more scope. It gives you more in-depth. It allows you to provide multiple acts of advocacy asks to your advocates. You can get instant advocate reach. You can get real-time responses and feedback. And when you formalize this community, you're starting to bring in a programmatic design and feel. My advice here is, if you are taking your program from a simple advocacy program where you're doing the basics, consider a tool. It's much easier to scale in terms of numbers if you have a tool, a specifically designed tool that's going to help you. And there's plenty out there, okay? My favorite by far is based on the Influitive platform. However, it really depends on what you're trying to achieve. There's lots and lots of different types of platform out there that will help you get to where you want to be. You just need to find the right one. Now, the other great thing about the advanced side of the program is you have an always-on solution. You're always engaging your customers, but you get that simplification of administration, but you also get the sophisticated reporting that can track everything that your advocate is doing. That also includes social media. And the great thing about having an advanced program, particularly if you're using an online tool, is it's infinitely scalable. Now, the other questions to ask yourself around this: do you need a simple or do you need an advanced advocacy program? So there's basic questions just to ask yourself. What outcomes are you trying to achieve? Are your stakeholders bought into the idea of advocacy? If they're not, then there's a real job to be done there to get them bought into that. And this goes back to where we talk around customer obsession. If your business is not obsessed or totally customer focused, it's really hard to get stakeholder buy-in if you want to take your advocacy program from basic to advanced. How many customer advocates do you have, and how do you find them? Do you have something like NPS in your organization? Do you want advanced advocates, advanced interactions with your advocates? Are you aligned to your sales and marketing strategies? Do sales and marketing see what you're trying to achieve? Can they see the end game of your advocacy program? And lastly, do you have appropriate budget? Now, budget is a contentious subject. Sometimes people can really sort of perform great advocacy programs with limited budget. But as you advance, as you become more in depth and more complex, you are going to need to start thinking about advanced budgets as well. Now, here's 5 tips to consider. My first tip is to define your outcomes. The definition of your program will focus on what you're delivering to the business. What you don't want is your program being seen as a nice to have. Your program should touch all areas of your business and have specific business benefits that appeal basically to everyone. That could be from a revenue perspective. The simplest measure there is references, referrals, and nurture opportunities. But also don't forget cross-sell and upsell. Advocates are much more willing to undertake activities that expose them to cross-sell and upsell opportunities. More importantly, and a really good tip here, if you're ever talking to service and support, they're much more willing to not argue over renewals. So bear that in mind. Secondly, external influence. You can start talking around reviews. Your external influence is the difference that your advocate's voice is being used in the public domain. So this is where they're promoting you. This is the peer-to-peer approach. And finally, don't forget about the fun elements. Now, fun doesn't have to be silly or whimsical. It can be fun in a creative way. Think about your learning. Think about how you socialize with your advocates. Think about how you educate your advocates, but how you educate them in a fun way. Some of the most fun challenges that we have within the Sage Champions program get some of the biggest responses, and you'll be amazed at how many people are really interested in just doing some fun activities. My second tip is to get buy-in. Now, this is really, really important. You need to ensure you get buy-in at all levels. That also raises your profile, but also your colleagues can see the value of the contributions you're making. But importantly, don't give them just the fluffy stuff. Some of the fluffy stuff is important, but take them through what's really making a difference to them. Your senior leaders are interested in revenue, what's being generated or what's being influenced or what's even being protected. From a sales perspective, it's about new business referrals and how you can get them involved in the reference process. From a marketing perspective, how advocates can get involved in campaigns, how they can help with content, how they can help with providing testimonials or doing surveys or reviews. Your customer success team will love you because you're making it easier for them when it comes to renewals. You'll also get really, really good handles on how to position cross-sell and upsell opportunities, but also help them get the most from the product they've bought. And finally, don't forget about service and support. You can reduce technical support calls. You can start to crowdsource support to answer those technical queries. So then you're reducing the kind of calls and the queries that go into your support desk. But don't forget to open up your advocacy program to your colleagues. Let them get a sense of what you're doing. Let them see what you're doing. Let them come up with the ideas. The great thing about your advocacy program is once your colleagues are bought in and they see the value you're delivering, they will come up with ideas and come to you with suggestions on how they want to use advocates. Tip 3 is be flexible. Maintain flexibility. Don't be afraid to constantly evaluate where you are with your program. It's fine if you want to change direction, especially if you're reflecting on changing advocate needs. Keep asking your advocates questions. Keep asking them things around how they're enjoying the program, what they're doing in the program. Balance what you are doing with new advocates with your activities. Keep existing advocates engaged. I've seen so many programs over my years work so hard to find, recruit, and involve new advocates, only to lose them because there aren't enough activities in the program on a regular basis to keep them engaged. Be consistent. Tip 4, make it desirable. This is a big one for me. Could be seen somewhat controversially, but I am a believer that your advocacy program, or at least the advocacy program we run at Sage, should be exclusive and have an air of a club about it. The main reason is that by creating this desirability, you will have customers who want to join with whom you can engage. And sometimes this may give you the opportunity to engage those customers who are traditionally not seen as advocates by saying, would you like to join the club? A perfect opportunity for you to open dialogue, find out why they want to join and engage them directly. Obviously, you don't want to exclude customers as such, but people's curiosity will get the better of them. They'll want to know what your club's about. They'll want to know what your advocacy program is about. They'll want to know why they're not involved. You'll be able to have conversations with them about this is what's involved when you join. Now, they'll want to join, especially if they see your program visibly in action. Now, that's a great opportunity. And this is where things like events come into their own. If an advocate sees some form of VIP treatment, or they're being given VIP treatment, and other customers are seeing that, nothing is more powerful than that customer saying, I want some of that. And remember, all the way through your program, keep that exclusivity, keep that desirability. I think it's absolutely key. And one of the other things to do is constantly surprise, do something unexpected. I'll give you another great example of one of the things we've been doing in our Sage Champions program. And that's we've been sending out boxes full of goodies to customers when we sign them up. It's not just a random bunch of stuff. It's actually been really carefully thought through. There are things within that box and the way they're presented that say quality. And that's something else that will make your program stand out. Surprise and delight. Do something unexpected. My final tip is around communication. Now, communication here is twofold. What you communicate internally and what you communicate to your advocates. But be careful. If you're using a third-party platform, like we discussed around an advanced program, you may have to make it clear that your advocate program doesn't have the same communication sort of like preferences that your main business may have. Always think of that and make sure it's clear and your advocates have a preference to turn that on and off and show them where it resides. Now, sometimes trying to get your voice heard in larger organizations is really difficult, especially when you're experiencing over communication throughout the business. Now, my advice here, find yourself a senior lead sponsor, the face of your program, even if it's your CEO. That will give you your internal communications, the standout element you're looking for. And remember to make everything you communicate internally in your business positive and celebratory. Tell your advocates around what other advocates are doing within your program. Have a monthly competition with your advocates to say, here's our top advocate of the month, and this is what they did to earn it. So that becomes desirable. Keep shouting about your program. Share your successes. Don't expect to have a seat at the table. You need to earn that seat. One of the biggest successes we've enjoyed within the Sage Champions program is producing an internal video that actually put our customers at the heart and center of a video that we asked them to talk about what they love about being part of our program. It was amazing. One of our advocates said, the advocacy program has changed my entire perception about Sage, and we now feel part of the family. It works. And there's nothing better than hearing your customers praise your program. If you have a discussion forum, use it to your advantage. Use it as part of your program and let advocates talk to each other. You'll be amazed at the interactions they have and the relationships they build, and that actually will help you. Finally, enjoy what you've built. Building advocacy programs is great fun. If you love working with customers, if you enjoy having the interaction with customers, you are in the right job. I absolutely love what I do. I love working with customers and I love working with teams because we're all focused on one thing, and that is making sure the customer is treated as the VIP king or queen that they deserve to be. So finally, thank you for watching, and I hope you got something out of today's session.
Hello. Wherever you're joining us from today, we want to say a huge welcome to our global community. We hope that you're enjoying the Customer Marketing Summit. I also want to send out an extra special thank you to all our sponsors, partners, and participants who together have made this event possible. We are also delighted to welcome Crowdvocate as our headline sponsor today. Their sessions are bursting with insights to help you level up. But remember, the learning doesn't stop here. If you haven't already, you can upgrade your pass to include access to all today's sessions on demand with our Access All Areas pass. Or you can become a PMA Pro member and benefit from unlimited access to exclusive templates, frameworks, and our entire library of videos and slide decks from our events. And remember, have your questions at the ready. Simply post your question in the comments section and get awesome advice from an expert in the field. What's not to love about that? So now, on to the next talk.
Hello everyone, welcome again to the Customer Marketing Summit. My name is Silvia Frucci and I am the Product Marketing here at Castor, and I'm with Jamie Corby, that is our Customer Insight Lead. And today we're going to talk about centralizing customer intelligence for product and marketing. Before we deep dive into our CX framework, let's set the scene. So I am currently the Senior Product Marketing Manager here at Castor, and I've been on the working team for about 13 years. I've been working in sales, pricing, and as a product manager for the electronic and the IT industry. And about 5 years ago, I joined back the healthcare trends and industry, and I work as a product marketing manager.
Hi everyone, so I'm Jamie. I have a background actually in business transformation and change projects, so working quite a lot with CX projects and service blueprints, that kind of thing, in my early career, and then moving into more UX focused projects, leading digital strategic projects in consultancies. So before moving to Amsterdam and joining the team here at Castor.
So let's talk about Castor. So we are a scale-up SaaS provider that offer a tool for clinical trials in healthcare. We've been founded in 2011, and our 3 founders are still part of the company as part of the leadership team. And back in July 2021, we raised Series B. And this injection have completely changed the company and put us on a completely different scale of growth. As you can, our employee count has drastically changed in the past 6 months. When I joined, I was employee number 79, and today we are 163 employees, wanted to reach 200 by the end of the year. We are a product lead, tech first company, and that means that all of our budget and effort are in product innovation for our customers. So as you can imagine, as our company grows, even our customer base have grown and diversified dramatically. So we kept asking ourselves that question: how do we know that we know our customer? So which data or which qualitative information give us the peace of mind to know that we actually nail a specific vertical or sub-segment that we're after? And how do we know that we have aligned the corrective trends and we are capable of let the right information resonate internally and become actionable insight? So that has been like our main goal for the past few months. And we put together a CX framework. So as you can imagine, our objective was to create actionable insight. And to create actionable insight, we need to align this information with our company vision, with market trends, and with our customer. But also we needed to understand the influence that our stakeholder has to this information and align them to their goals and OKRs.
But before we got started really in establishing our CX framework, we really wanted to understand holistically across the company, the building blocks that it's going to make our foundation to develop this CX framework. So the things that we really looked at was our vision and strategy. This is quite easy for Caster. It's always been very important to us to have customers at the center of how we make decisions. But some of the other things were fluctuating quite significantly. So when we look at technology, or we look at employees, operations, as a business has grown. So I started 3 years ago and there was 30 people. So as our business grows, these things have been flexing and changing quite rapidly to continue to meet the needs of the business. So we've always had commitment from leadership and the team there for the vision and strategy, but technology, for example, we've had lots of different tools in place and lots of changes in this space. We've had growth, as Sylvia mentioned, in employees. So establishing that organizational structure and clear ownership in the departments has been evolving and changing quite rapidly, and operations as well. So our processes and our procedures have also had to mature and evolve over time. So in these other departments, they've definitely had a lot of variation over that time. So when we started out on this goal of setting up our CX framework, it was important to really assess these different building blocks and see, was it a stable foundation that we were building on? And we look at the industry trends. So if we look at how other companies are doing in this space, we're not the only ones that are kind of in a similar situation. So when we look at other companies and other industries, very few are actually using real-time data to make decisions. Very few have a centralized knowledge management practices that make this information accessible for all teams. And only a few also have this overarching strategy in place that really allows everyone to tie themselves to this clear vision and clear kind of strategy for their CX work. And so this kind of talks a little bit about our evolution here at Caster. So in the beginning, we had a lot of unknowns. As a startup, we had the monopoly of the customer base here in the Netherlands. So a lot of academic hospital customers. When we were growing and branching out, we had a lot of questions about where to focus on, what features, what products, what we actually needed to do to answer these questions in the industry. So what that meant was a lot of short bursts, basically, of research, answering a research question, and then moving on rapidly to the next one. So once we had enough confidence in the decision we had to make at that time, we'd move on to the next question. And this worked really well when we were a small team and when we had a lot of questions, but now we're starting to build more confidence and a clearer understanding of our customer base. And so what's really important for us now as we're moving forward is to have an accumulative, centralized, scalable, journey-based knowledge system where new people can come and join, they can contribute to, and they can extract from this information we have about our customers, and keeping everyone aligned is really important for this as well.
So that's how our CX framework look like. Is 5 steps: align, develop, engage, uncover, and influence. That start with understanding the scope of the work and highlighting the objectives, and then you develop your MVP of minimum viable product. You engage your data champion, you analyze the data, and finally you communicate to your stakeholder the insight and make sure that those are actionable. So let's deep dive into this. First stage is align. So at this stage, you want to define the objective of your CX framework. And the approach that we use has needed to assess few things. First of all, you want to assess your company direction and your growth pace. You want to understand your customer segmentation for the current customer and the future customer. So if you are a scale up like we are looking at current customer base, but also we always keep in mind where we want to be in 6 to 8 months. Well, if you are a business that is 90% retention, your revenue is 90% retention, you might want to focus on the current customer base before you explore the next markets. You want to look at the revenue trends. You want to look at the department readiness and the buying potential. That's really important because that will make you will create an alliance with all of your different stakeholders and departments to make the CX work relevant for everyone. And then you want to check your stakeholder goals to align your goals with them. One of the biggest challenge that we face, and we think that's a common challenge, is the size of your scope. When you put together a framework, you always aim for the star. But what you need to understand is the key things is to deliver something that you can build with the data set that you currently have, and they can make a quick difference to your business, so that your CX framework and insight became immediately actionable and all of your stakeholders see the value of them. For us, that means after we highlight and we look at all of the different aspects of our approach, we have three main factors that have influenced this stage. We looked at our clinical landscape during the pandemic that has changed and that has sparked the growth and the innovation internally within the company. And then we have new emerging markets where that we weren't going after at the time, that we are a good fit on. And we want to deliver three things to our business. We want to influence the go-to-market and the overall strategy. We also want to influence the product roadmap. And finally, we want to build the customer advocacy program. So as you can see here is how we put together our CX framework. So we started with our MVP, or our first horizon, that is the focus, to arrive to a future-proof program that is in 6 to 8 months time. So our first horizon is we want to ensure the stability of our customer base, and then influence the immediate product roadmap, the one that will develop between the 3 to 6 months. We want to map the customer journey and understand what are the key factors for conversion. And then we want to implement a case study library. From then, this horizon will transform into create an evidence-based model that assess the market readiness per vertical. And then we want to optimize and automate our current sales workflow and build a strategic partnership with our customer and an advocacy program. This advocacy program will become a customer advisory board program in the last stage of our CX framework. There's going to be some KPI that will assess the success of our work. And then we want to influence the product roadmap in the long term, so 12 months plus. Finally, we want to untap the market that we haven't tapped at the moment. Like in this case, we have the in vitro diagnostics. Next step in our process is the develop stage. And this is about make it happen. So what you want to do is you want to map all of your data sources and ask yourself a few questions. So how meaningful is the overall impact of these initiatives? What are the results of this initiative? Which data do you need to make this happen? Where the data is stored, how often they are collected, how is the data quality, and how will you organize the data analysis? And finally, who is your final audience? Who are your stakeholders? So one of the common challenges at this stage is about incomplete and missing data. We find it ourselves, but also compliance and regulatory hurdles. So if you work in finance, or if you work in a healthcare sector, like we do, we have a lot of rules and regulations that we need to oblige for. So we found that some of our data are bounded by regulatory and compliance information. So we have to use them in different ways. We also find that our data were very siloed and unstructured. And as the company grows and more tools are added to our tool portfolio, each single tool collected different data, and there is a lot of dispersion of information. So then we needed a data resource plan. So as you can see here is how we made it happen. That's a visual view of how we map all of this data across the customer journey. So at the top, you have your customer timeline, and then you have 4 different stages of the customer journey. When the customer is a suspect or is unknown, most of the data are collected by marketing and sales, because you do your positioning and segmentation, and you work on your digital marketing content. So you have some marketing KPIs, some industry reports, some SME interview, but also some proactive sales targeting that will provide you some data there. Then your suspect become a prospect, so they enter within your pipeline. And at this stage, you have different touch points. You have a sales cadence, you have demos, and you have nurturing stream, still led by marketing. In terms of data, we started to have we have pipeline analysis and RFP reviews, but also our CI team starts to do some lost interview at sign-off stage. Finally, when the customer is a win customer, so he has signed off the contract, he became a customer itself. And then all of the work is in the hand of CS. There is all of the onboarding, and there is all of the work around the feature request and what is the customer satisfaction score. Finally, after the customer has been onboarded with us for more than a month, we start to work on the support and the upsell that is still led by the CS team and check with NPS and user journeys. But the CI, that's where most of the CI and UX team are working on collecting data, because we do post-implementation interview, win interview, usability testing, and customer effort scoring. Now, these are some of the data sources that we plot for our MVP. So for our small size project, we have many others that we have planned ahead of us that we want to add to make our insight even more meaningful. But this is how that looks right now.
So the next step moving out of develop is into engage. So as Sylvia mentioned, understanding who your stakeholders are, but understanding what their information sources are and what data they're using to drive their decisions. So spending some time working with these teams, establishing who your champions are going to be across these teams and across these touch points, what we need from them, what they can take from us as well, and how often we're having that engagement, how we're having that engagement, what communication channels we need to consider, and if we need new tools or access to different tools throughout this process to actually extract this information is really key. So for us at Caster, actually buying was quite easy. So initiatives at Caster are pretty well received most of the time if you have a good, good justification for why you want to try and tackle something new. But execution was definitely the challenging part. So with a lot of new systems and tools and people, there was a lot of moving pieces that we needed to kind of wrangle and make sure that we had a good overview of everything. It's quite typical, I think, for startups and scale-ups, where the environment's really fast-paced, everyone's quite maxed out on their own objectives as well, and trying to slot into that is sometimes a little bit challenging. But what made it a lot easier for us was actually understanding their goals, spending some time with them, really uncovering what they're working currently and what was really a high priority for them, and tying into that as much as we could. So as an example, we had our customer success team who were transitioning a lot of their tooling over to still manage and capture their customer satisfaction for support and tickets. And by a few conversations with them, we realized they were using a tool that actually has a full suite for customer feedback. So we were able to leverage that already 8 or 12-week process of vendor negotiation and selecting a vendor that we would typically go through for one thing and then end up catering to a few of our needs internally to capture feedback. So really staying in touch with your stakeholders and understanding what their priorities are will help you to leverage that and do well. Yeah. And then we can move into uncover. So the fun part. After engaging with everyone, after extracting all the data that we need, now what happens? So for us, it was really about identifying trends and themes across the data sources, determining the best artifacts to showcase this information and really share how your customers are experiencing your products and services. I think in a B2B environment, this can be quite challenging because there's lots of different people involved. There's the customers, the buyers, the users themselves. So I think trying to find the best artifact that showcases your product and your customer journey is really critical here, and not necessarily conforming to any standard out there. Quantifying and prioritizing what you find as well. So there's a lot of information usually. So trying to find exactly how you quantify some of these qualitative insights that we were collecting from interviews, for example, what other information can you use to supplement that? And then generating recommendations to address those opportunity areas. So for us, we to try and keep things the scope and deliver to a particular time frame, we wanted to, we picked 7 customers for a specific segment, and that allowed us to really deep dive with those 7 customers. So we pulled across the complete customer journey through awareness all the way through to product use, exactly what had happened, who they'd engaged with, the types of feedback that we had along the way, and their general behavior. And this was to basically create our version 1 of our framework and report. And then from there, we could identify themes and trends across these customers. So the example here is we had actually quite a few customers using our surveys for their patient population, if you like, and because we're focusing on digital therapeutics that have a much higher standard and much more experience in the digital space, their feedback and findings were quite different to customers we've worked with previously. So it was nice to see something coming to light very quickly, only a few interviews in, about their expectations. To do this, we use this template. So for those 7 customers, it wasn't this organized at the beginning, but we just threw all the information that we could find about these customers into basically a Miro board, and then moved it all around until it all kind of made sense and was grouped logically for the audience that we were presenting to. So we wanted to showcase a quick snapshot of who this customer is, what they're about, what their goal is, how we were segmenting that customer as well. So we use primary and secondary segmentation. So some common things at the top there around size, revenue, industry, geography, but the secondary segmentation is really specific to us. So we use things like therapeutic area or size of the clinical trial or whatever it might be. And then on the far right-hand side, we've got the actual, the metrics that we typically use across our business to indicate success. So customer lifetime value, NPS, professional services, and customer services satisfaction scores. And then what we did is just pull that information. So for each client, how did they hear about us? What do they originally come to us for? What problem were we solving? And really try and pull out what was working well for that touch point, for that part of the customer journey, and where could we improve? And we did that throughout the journey. So for consideration purchase, what were the key decision-making factors? This time frame for us can sometimes be up to 3 to 6 months in this phase. So there can be quite a lot of information that they need at different varying points, a lot to do with compliance, for example. And then what are the competitors they also considered? For implementation and onboarding, we do offer professional services in this space, so extra touch points there to really look at and understand. But what does success look like, and where are the most common questions that we're getting from our customers? Utilization, engagement, retention, my specialty more on the product side. So what are they most frequently using our products for? How well are they working? And how are they evolving in their business? How are their needs changing, particularly in the pandemic, where I think a lot of our paper-based clients could no longer rely on paper. So it was a pretty significant shift for them to work in a digital way. And then finally, in advocacy. So a client of ours has put up a rollout at a conference for us previously. So there's some pretty weird and wacky ways our clients are advocating for us, but trying to understand where and how they're doing that, and are there some trends there, or can we leverage that in a more holistic way? So this is how we approached consolidating and organizing that information for our customers. And maybe one last point is on that as well. So when we did extract those themes out and those trends, we then went back to those other information sources that we had, like industry reports or like competitors, to really boost and make those recommendations more robust. So also leveraging those other information sources for those recommendations. And then finally, influence, the final piece of the puzzle. So here it was really coming back to what was the most critical part of our first iteration of our CX framework and our report. So creating visibility and access to information, I think, is the most important piece, particularly now that we are a remote first company. Clearly linking the insights and priorities for each stakeholder group. So we have a pretty flat structure here at Casa, so your company might be a little bit different. So while it was important for us to get buy-in from the leadership team, it was really about catering also to the broader audience who are going to be making the decisions at that touch point level about shaping that experience for our customers. So making that information available and tailored to them was really important. And just some considerations there for us was more that we have this remote first, so async and documentation being very critical. This is an MVP. We're running a little bit of a lean approach here, so be very open to feedback and incorporate what's most important to your stakeholders into your work as well. And I guess the main common challenge here is reducing the scope and trying not to take too much on in that first iteration. So for this, we tried to map out kind of high touch and low touch communication channels. So we've got Confluence and Slack, All Hands and Lunch and Learn on the left-hand side here that are really more about if people want more information or they can get it. And that's kind of how we're kind of creating that broad brushstroke of information sharing. And then on the other side, we've got more of a tailored, pointy approach that is really more around our key contributors and our influencers within the leadership team. I think, Sylvia, did you want to also mention something here?
Yes. So this slide could be overwhelming because there is a lot of different ways you can communicate with your stakeholders, but don't discourage yourself. As for any audience, different people have different ways to digest the information. So listen to your stakeholder and try to understand what's the best way for them to absorb those data, but also what is the correct format for them to use them and make them actionable. So your actual work has a value to them. So it's important also to hear the feedback around your MVP or any stage or any horizon you put on your CX journey, because at different stages, stakeholders they will have different comments of different point of view on some of the insight and the trend you bring to them. So it's really important that you listen and tune into this and you change your approach, or like the question that you ask to your customer, the way you look at your data as you progress and evolve. So, and that is the end of our presentation that I really hope has been helpful for you. I'm looking forward, we are looking forward to hear your question and comments in the Q&A. But if you, as I always like to finish any presentation with what are the 3 things that we learn and you can take away from the mistake that we made. So the first thing is definitely the internal buy-in. It was, as we said before, it was easy for us, but it's not always this way. If you have buy-in and you are able to communicate effectively with your stakeholders, your any sort of framework or CX insight that you have will have a value and will be heard. Finally is stay focused, but plan to scale. So making sure that your MVP provides just the essential information that will make the biggest impact, and then scale as your company grows. And finally, embrace the feedbacks and make sure that you are open to hear any different point of view from your stakeholders, and then make continuous improvement to your program. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Gal. I'm CEO and co-founder at Cravocate. So excited to have you here on the Customer Marketing Summit this year. It's great. So many people are meeting together, sharing best practices, knowledge, and networking. I recommend that you find at least one thing that you can implement even in Q4 this year in your company, which would be great. I also invite you to join our Customer Marketing Slack group together with HubSpot. Just reach out to us and we'll add you in. And to come to my session later today is going to talk about 7 things I've learned from some of the greatest customer marketers out there. Enjoy.
Whether you're joining a Product Marketing Alliance event for the first time, or if you're a seasoned regular, welcome to the second edition of the Customer Marketing Summit. Before we dive into the day's content, we just want to say a huge thank you to our sponsors, partners, speakers, and you, our lovely audience. From wherever you are watching in the world, we're sure you'll enjoy the sessions from our incredible lineup. With expert presentations, specialist talks, and deep dive panel sessions on the agenda, you are in for a real treat today. To get the most out of these sessions, please ensure you are sharing your feedback and asking all your questions in the comments section, and our speakers will be answering them throughout the day. After the event, a great place to continue the conversation is in the customer marketing channel in the PMA Slack community. If you aren't already a member, hop on over and come and join the discussion. And if that's still not enough, then why not become a PMA Pro member and benefit from unlimited access to exclusive templates, frameworks, and our entire library of videos and slide decks from all our events. So with all that to come, let's dive right into the next session.
Hello, and thank you for inviting me at the Customer Marketing Summit. I'm very pleased to be presenting to you my thought and experience on how to build and scale up a customer reference program to support your business growth. So let me share my screen. So my name is Natalie Barr. I head the customer advocacy team at Temenos. Temenos is the world-leading banking software company. We serve over 3,000 customers in 150 countries, including 41 out of the top 50 banks. 1.2 billion people rely on Temenos for banking today. So with my team, we look after our customer loyalty program, we create customer assets, and finally, we manage the customer reference program. And today, we will talk in detail about this reference program. So why do we need customer references? So in my opinion, three main reasons. First of all, to establish our credibility and position our brand. It's always better when somebody else says that you are great rather than yourself. It's very beneficial to associate your brand with other successful brands and to simply show that you have many customers that trust you and your services or products. To grow your business, to generate new leads, telling a prospect that his competitors have chosen you will certainly attract his attention. Secondly, to close deals, you need to provide references so your prospect can reassure themselves that you have delivered successfully what you claim to be able to. And finally, to retain customers who wants to learn from one another and share experience and lessons. They also want to know that they made the right choice. And the third reason is finally to improve your services and products by receiving feedback from your customers. We at Temenos have even innovated and developed new products in collaboration with some of our customers. So which role in a company are the role that needs customer references? So different function with different needs. So first of all, of course, salespeople, they need references for RFI and RFPs. They will also require customers that are willing to accept a reference call from a prospect and sometimes host a reference visit in their offices. It is important for sales to understand the stories of our customers, their challenges and successes, so they can share with prospects. Secondly, inside sales, or BDM, as you might call it in some companies, they are trying to qualify leads. And for them, it will be important to drop names in a conversation or email. Important for them to be able to articulate to a prospect why they should talk to us and what we have delivered successfully to their peers, competitors. Thirdly, marketing. We always need references. We always need customers that are willing to speak at an event or webinar or be mentioned in a campaign, in blogs, in social media, on white papers, brochure, on the website, customers to be interviewed by journalists or analysts, and of course, to participate into case studies. And finally, senior executive. They need to show our achievements to investors and prove it with customers. So now that we understood why we need this customer, who needs these customer references, how to build a customer reference database. So maybe before we talk about this, maybe we should first define what is a customer reference. So for me, it's a customer, an account, not a person that has agreed to be a reference for Temenos. We distinguish here between public and non-public references. So public means that customers have agreed to have their logo on our website, that we can mention them publicly, in our marketing materials. Some customers may agree to talk to our prospect and give a reference call, but they don't want their logo to be on our website. It's generally due to internal policy. So this is a non-public reference. So we keep in our database many details on the referenceability of the customer. So first of all, is this customer a public or non-public logo, as we just explained? What are the activities that customers wish to participate in? For example, reference call, site visit, speaking engagement, case studies, video, press and analyst interview. We keep track of each activity that a customer has done. We have a loyalty program with a reward scheme. So when a customer does one of these activities, they earn a number of points, and then they can redeem some perks against these points. So we also record the reference frequency. So how often do a customer want to give a reference call per year, for example? And also, who are these people? So if a customer, if an account is a reference, who at that company will be the person willing to give reference? And there might be different people depending on their function, depending on their responsibilities. So sometimes it might be somebody more from the business side, somebody more from the technical side. It all depends on what is the need. Who do we know? How do we know which customer want to be a reference? Who should we ask to find out? So first of all, we regularly conduct a reference gap analysis. So it means that we look in our database and see for which products or regions or sectors we need to focus our efforts to generate more references. And then also we will consult our wins list or go live list, and we will identify some additional name. Then we will, of course, talk to salespeople, customer success managers, product and services colleagues to identify even more names. Once we got this list of names of people that we would like to become references, we will then talk to salespeople to find out if the customer is ready at this moment to be a reference, and in that case, to introduce us, so we will take over. So once we're taking over, what do we do? How do we enroll the customer as a reference? So we simply talk to the customer, explain what is our product, either by email or verbally on a call. And then we send an email to formalize the fact that we want them to join the program. And also we let them tell us which activity they would like to do with us. As I explained earlier, for example, speaking engagement, reference call, and etc., and the frequency they would like to do it. And once we receive their email, we will archive it. At Temenos, we keep all our customers' information in our CRM system, we use Salesforce, and more specifically, we keep the info that are related to references in a Salesforce app called ReferenceAge. So now let's imagine that we have this list. So which info do we need to find out in order to build our database? And let's talk a little bit. First of all, what kind of info we need? What kind of details do we need? So beside the referenceability info that I just explained now a few minutes ago, we also need generic information on the account. So such as an account description, region, sector, number of customers, number of assets, etc. We need also to have information on products and modules that they have licensed. And finally, information on the implementation. So which means when did they implement the product, who did that, is that us or partner, and which kind of implementation it was, and etc. So you might need different information in your database. It will all depend on what are the criteria that your salespeople will need to find a reference for their RFPs and RFIs. So how do we find all of this information, right? The one that I just mentioned, the referenceability, the information on products and on implementation, and the generic information on the reference. So it's a cross-functional collaboration to get that customer full view, 360-degree view. My team and I are talking regularly to salespeople, to pre-sales, to customer success managers, to services, support, consulting services colleague, to sales operation and marketing, because each one has a piece of the truth. We also look online. So we look at the customer annual reports, we look on the customer's website, on the press to see the latest news related to this customer. And of course, we talk directly to the customers, right? We do interview them. So once we have created a detailed profile of the customer, we need to constantly update it because the customer situation might change. For example, a merger or an acquisition will take place. The customer is changing his strategy. They bought new products or went live with new solution. A management took place, or maybe at the moment we have some negotiation in place. So it's all of these, or one of these, might prevent temporarily or permanently a customer to be a reference. So now let's imagine that we have built our reference database with all the information about the customer. So how our colleagues will find a customer willing to speak at an event, or customers that would like to give a reference call. So my team used to answer about 1,000 reference requests per year from our colleagues. So colleagues from sales, pre-sales, marketing people, and etc., asking my team, can you please give me a reference, which means a customer that has this project or this module, or that is in this sector, this size, and etc., etc. So we will help all of them with this request. Now, we wanted to be more efficient, of course, and to be able to scale up. So therefore, we have created, with the support of our Salesforce team internally, a new tool in Salesforce that will help our colleague to find this reference themselves. And this tool is a self-service, and we can now maximize our support on large and strategic deals. So what this new tool is about. So it's basically in Salesforce a new tab that a colleague can access, And they will find, like you can see now on the screen, a screenshot of that. So they will find different drop-down menus or fields that they need to fill in, at least one, and say, I'm looking for a reference either in this region, or that has this product, or that has deployed at this date, or the release of the product is this, and etc., many criteria. So they can choose at least one. Then they clicked on Go Search, and a list of references that match these criteria will appear. They can download, export that list. And what they can also do, which is amazing, is next to each name of the customers will be a button which will say generate a PDF. They will click on that button, and immediately a PDF will be generated with all the information that we spoke earlier. So plenty of information on the referenceability, on the company itself, on the products and modules, as well as the implementation for that account. And this is really, it's great because we had to compile of this information beforehand. So this is the big job. It's all in Salesforce, and we update that as we know any new information. So when people are downloading this PDF, it's always accurate, and it's always the latest information that we have in Salesforce, because all the fields for this PDF is coming from Salesforce fields. So now let's imagine that a salesperson has found references, and they need to have a reference call for one of their prospects. So we have created here processes for our sales and pre-sales people who need these references to give a call with a prospect. So what these processes are. So we have documented everything very clearly with screenshot. Each process is a PowerPoint with screenshot on each slide. So it's very easy to use and to understand. So first of all, we'll tell them, you need to find your reference, of course. And therefore, they need to use this reference search tool that I just explained a few minutes ago. So once the salespeople went into this tool, find a list of references, and they said, okay, I can see this customer seems to be really good to give a reference to my prospect. So then they will submit a request in Salesforce itself to the account manager of the customer to ask them if this customer can give a reference to the prospect. And the account manager of the customer, after asking the customer, of course, if they agree, will reply in Salesforce and will either approve or decline the request. So now let's imagine the customer said, yes, I'm okay to give a reference. So the account manager will approve, and therefore the opportunity owner, the person who is responsible of the prospect, will receive this okay. And what will they do? They will use the briefing templates that we have created. They will fill it in with all the points and the challenges and the question that the prospect would like to discuss with the customers. Once this presentation is filled in, we'll send it to the customer, who can prepare themselves in advance of the call. Then the call is taking place, and then we need the opportunity owner to fill in Salesforce something very simple that explains, yes, the call took place, tick a box, the call took place. And we also need the the opportunity owner to fill in a very simple survey to explain how the call went. And so we know if we can use again the same customer to give reference or not, to understand also if the person that was giving a reference, if it was somebody maybe too technical or too business, and if they answer correctly the question or not. So this is very important for us to know that. And so yes, so this is how it goes. Also something which is maybe I want to share with you might work for you too, we're giving to our salespeople some additional commission, and this is to the account manager of the customer. If their customer give a reference, an account manager will get an additional commission, providing the deal closes. So, so that's what we do in terms of reference calls. So something I would like to discuss also is it's something that I feel is pretty important, is the customer's story as sales enablement tools. So I really feel that we need to complement our customer references with great customer story. At Temenos, we are really passionate about customers and their achievement, their success, and we like to shout about it. So we created stories in different formats, you name it, videos, case study, we put it on our website, slides, PDF, and we promote them on our website, on our sales enablement platform, on social media, in our various newsletters and other marketing collaterals. I feel, and we really find that out, that sending a few case studies with an RFP will help greatly, not just the name of who are the customers that have bought the same solution that the prospect would like to buy, but also giving something on the story itself. So it could be a video, it could be a link for them to read about the story. This works very well. So I think that this is it. And here ends my presentation. So thank you very much. I hope that you find it interesting. And if you have any question, please don't hesitate to send me an email or contact me via LinkedIn. You can see all the links on the screen here. So thank you very much for your time.
Hi, everybody. My name is Gal. I'm CEO and co-founder at Cravocate. So excited to have you here on the Customer Marketing Summit this year. It's great. So many people are meeting together, sharing best practices, knowledge, and networking. I recommend that you find at least one thing that you can implement even in Q4 this year in your company, which would be great. I also invite you to join our customer marketing Slack group together with HubSpot. Just reach out to us and we'll add you in. And to come to my session later today is going to talk about 7 things I've learned from some of the greatest customer marketers out there. Enjoy.
These days, authentic customer reviews, referrals, and references are what buyers trust and value most when making purchasing decisions. That's where Influitive comes in. We're the advocacy, community, and engagement platform of choice for the world's most customer-obsessed brands, including Adobe, Cisco, IBM, and Mountain Dew. Our advanced targeting, personalization, gamification, and rewards drive extreme engagement and customer growth at scale. Let Influitive help you turn your customers into loyal advocates and grow your business.
Hey everyone, I'm Bree Bunzel, coming to you live from Sydney, Australia. Over the course of my career, I've had experience in PMM, brand marketing, field marketing, and now focused on all things customer marketing. I'm excited to share more about my new Customer Advisory Board Masterclass. I learned about the importance of customer centricity at a young age of 7 when I didn't have the right audience, messaging, positioning, and pricing in mind for my neighborhood lemonade stand. My market researcher father was not impressed with the poorly located stand, undervalued 10 cents cup of lemonade, and it was there that I began my 101 lesson on understanding customers. Since then, I've had the chance to work for a lot of incredible customer-centric companies, learning the frameworks and the value of customer visits, experiences, and events that fuel feedback loops and drive the overall company strategy. My team and I at Dropbox built the first customer advisory board program globally, and I've created a blueprint for running a successful CAB, all taught in this new CAB masterclass. CABs are an essential part and component of shaping your strategic framework for not only your product, but also your overall company strategy. This course will also help you understand the strategic benefits of a CAB, help you get business buy-in from stakeholders, and provide the right templates and guidelines to build a better customer advisory board experience for your customers. You'll have a chance to learn best practices to drive engagement among your members, both virtual as well as in person, and you'll learn how to best incorporate those customer insights into your company feedback loops. You'll hear from CAB experts at Asana, Adobe, Zendesk, LinkedIn, and the Product Marketing Alliance. It'll be filled with 3 hours of content, 13 chapters, 3 exclusive templates, and an official Brand Spankin' New certification to seal the deal. I hope to see you there.
Hello, wherever you're joining us from today, we want to say a huge welcome to our global community. We hope that you're enjoying the Customer Marketing Summit. I also want to send out an extra special thank you to all our sponsors, partners, and participants who together have made this event possible. We are also delighted to welcome Crowdvocate as our headline sponsor today. Their sessions are bursting with insights to help you level up. But remember, the learning doesn't stop here. If you haven't already, you can upgrade your pass to include access to all today's sessions on demand with our Access All Areas pass. Or you can become a PMA Pro member and benefit from unlimited access to exclusive templates, frameworks, and our entire library of videos and slide decks from our events. And remember, have your questions at the ready. Simply post your question in the comments section and get awesome advice from an expert in the field. What's not to love about that? So now, on to the next talk. Hi everybody, welcome back to the Customer Marketing Summit. As you know by now, my name is Rose. I'm the Community Director here at Product Marketing Alliance, and I am really excited to be hosting this awesome fireside chat. I am joined by the wonderful Taylor Page, who is the Senior Manager of Customer Marketing at A Cloud Guru. And we're going to be diving into all things on the relationship between customer marketing, customer success, and how you can really collaborate to create some magic. So yeah, we're going to start things off with a bit more of a thorough intro. So welcome to the stage, Taylor. We'd love to hear a little bit more about you.
Yeah, hi, thanks. I'm so excited to be here and to be presenting at the Customer Marketing Summit. So I think, like a lot of customer marketers, I came into customer marketing in sort of like a sideways way. My background is in nonprofits, actually, but I have been working in the SaaS world for 7, 8 years, some number of years. And I've held pretty much I've been part of every go-to-market team you can think of. I've been an account executive on a sales team. I created and ran a business development and strategic partnerships program. And I also was a customer success manager. So, I don't have a traditional marketing background. Certainly my digital marketing knowledge can always use some bolstering, but I think that background of being in a lot of different roles and being in a lot of customer and prospect facing roles gives me a good perspective when it comes to customer marketing, and especially when it comes to working alongside and really working with customer success teams in order to drive those positive customer outcomes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, chatting to all the community members, I think there's no regular route necessarily into either customer marketing or product marketing more generally. And it's always super interesting to hear what kind of all the different backgrounds that people have. But yeah, as you mentioned, you are very well placed to be chatting about this relationship, having sat on both the customer marketing and customer success side. But yeah, before we dive in, I guess would love to hear a little bit more about the overview of kind of the key similarities and differences, maybe how you've seen customer success versus customer marketing structured in the different roles you've been in. Just give us a bit of insight into that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the common ground is pretty vast. There's both organizations, both roles are hyper-focused on existing customers and everything that entails, engaging them, bringing them on board, potentially expanding or really driving that ROI so that customers are seeing the value of the product and interested in expanding. And at the end of the day, retention, I think, is a huge, huge bottom line driver for both customer success and customer marketing. However, both teams go about things in really different ways, and they have different strengths. The customer marketing function that I've built at A Cloud Guru really consists of both the customer communication, sort of that one-to-many customer communication channels that include nurture communications, newsletters, webinar invites, targeted communication based on certain milestones, that type of thing, as well as customer advocacy. So referrals and references, online review management, and customer stories like case studies. Sort of all of that falls under customer marketing. I think similarly to how there's like not one route into customer marketing, there's like not one way to set up a customer marketing team. I've seen it done many different ways at many different companies, but I think in general, right, you see a customer communication component potentially, and then some sort of customer advocacy or engagement component. On the flip side, customer success, I think, tends to look fairly similar. across companies, right? So you've got a team of customer success managers and their associated leadership, and they tend to be focused on, most companies, that is a super valuable resource. So it tends to be focused on larger customers. Maybe you're working with enterprise companies, or at our company, for example, we sell based on licenses, right? So if you purchase a certain number of licenses, one of the perks, one of the features included with that is a customer success manager. So because of that, those customer success managers are hyper focused on their accounts and their book of business and developing those deep interpersonal relationships. Like, we have some incredible customer success managers, and they can tell you like the name of their point of contact's husband and all of their kids and where they went on vacation last month, right? Like really deep relationships. They understand the account's upper, like high level business goals. They understand where the team fits in the broader organization, right? Like they have a lot of that knowledge about that account. That customer marketers really are, they might have data and inputs, but they don't have that like deep knowledge of the people involved. So I think that's, at least at in my experience, what I've seen, those are sort of the like lay of the land for both groups, and sort of where they have common ground, but also where their perspectives differ, and where there can be some causes of tension.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think it's so interesting to see how both job functions are evolving as well, and really coming to the light is that true strategic position that they can own, you know, being in that conversation with customers day in, day out. And yeah, I think a lot of companies are really kind of harnessing that power at this time, which is why kind of this space is such an exciting place to be working in.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, I did notice you kind of alluded to it there, but there's often a few points of kind of tension or competition or overlapping or, you know, gray area, to put it nicely. I guess in your experience, like what kind of issues have you seen with customer marketers and customer success teams working together?
Yeah, I mean, I think I can certainly speak to my experience, right? I think when you're talking about existing customers, they're a scarce resource, they're a limited resource. You know, I think there's also a lot more emotion attached to them. And especially when we're talking about, you know, creating those deep relationships, those deep interpersonal relationships, those are very valuable. And they've, you know, a customer success manager has put a lot of their own time and effort into investing in this account, these people, these points of contact. Like there's a lot of skin in the game. And I think that can naturally lead to sort of some really wanting to provide that white glove service, and thus kind of not wanting anyone else to touch it, and, you know, potentially disrupt any of those relationships that they've built. I think on the flip side, you know, customer marketing teams, if they're doing a good job, tend to be very data driven and tend to be very much looking at the big picture. And, you know, as marketers, we're all about developing segments and personas and audiences, but all of those, they may be one to like not that many, but they are all by their nature one to many. You are not providing a one-to-one white glove service, with like very few exceptions. You're going to be looking for the common denominators. You're going to be looking for messaging that's going to resonate with a large group of customers, but it might not be 100% perfect for each one. It'll be 90% right for 1,000, right? So I think that one-to-many versus one-to-one, that tension, I think can lead to walls being built up, or at the slightly less like aggressive silos, right? Silos developing between the teams, and keeping them from developing that really tight collaboration and partnership. that I think is absolutely crucial to customers actually seeing results and actually seeing value. And at the end of the day, achieving that retention level, that retention and expansion that, is really the end goal.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so interesting to think kind of how aligned they can be in terms of goals and, the ultimate end goal, like you said. But yeah, the route to it is sometimes a tricky one to navigate. So kind of bearing all that in mind, I'd love for you to talk us through a few kind of key tips and lessons learned along the way. Talk us through.
Yeah. Okay. So I think the absolute first step, and I'll put all of this in context of this is what I've done when working with customer success teams from a customer marketing lens. And I've used sort of these are the tips that I've developed from both my successes and also my missteps. I would say the absolute first thing is aligning on your goals. So whether y'all use OKRs, objectives and key results, if you're using key performance indicators like a KPI, or you've just got like more broad goals for a certain time period, H1, Q2, whatever, really understanding what customer success is as a department, what their goals look like. Are they focused on air coverage? Do they just want to make sure that every account has heard from their customer success manager? What are their retention numbers like? Are customer success managers responsible for engagement, especially if you have a SaaS product, logins, monthly active users, weekly active users? Are those metrics that they're looking at? Maybe they're interested in advocacy pieces like creating case studies. I think all of those could be the broader OKRs for customer success, but customer marketing should really understand what those are, and vice versa. Also, customer marketing needs to have their own goals defined. Looking at your top level business objectives and rolling down to see what customer marketing can influence. But I think to my mind, the goal of that is when you understand what goals customer success is working to, you understand what goals you're working to, it's much easier to find those key points of alignment and understand the broader picture, which is like, we're all on the same team. We're all working towards the same goal, which is providing excellent customer outcomes that drive value, that drive solutions to the problems our product is solving. Like, that's what we all want to achieve at the end of the day. But I think having really clear understanding of like, okay, your goal is to drive admin logins and you want to achieve whatever, 80% retention rate, right? Mm-hmm. Great. Customer marketing can align on that, understand it, and help to bolster those efforts using the sort of customer marketing approach to things. So number one, align on your goals is my first takeaway.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it keeps kind of coming back to that, but having that level of transparency really is the first step to collaborating, because, you can't be working effectively with anyone in the wider organization, let alone the people who you're most, aligned with in terms of who you're reaching out to and what you're trying to achieve day in, day out, without that initial level of kind of transparency and understanding, and also ability to prioritize as well. So yeah, super interesting. Cool. Take it away.
Well, I think, exactly what you're saying is kind of my second point that I would make, which is that transparency and collaboration. It can't just be on sort of the highest level of strategically we are aligned, right? But I think some of it is really getting in the weeds and creating those relationships, right? So whether it's establishing, for example, I have bi-weekly meetings with customer success leadership, so that we really are always very much on the same page. As their goals change, we can understand okay, their goals are changing or shifting. Our goals, our priorities even might be changing, but how can we make sure we are staying on the same page? But I think the other piece is really getting hands-on with the actual customer success managers, the individuals who are working one-on-one with these accounts. That gets a lot easier if your company has a listening software of some kind, like Gong or Chorus. That makes it a little easier to listen in on those conversations. But I also think having those regular syncs, a lot of meetings can be emails, but some meetings like really need to be meetings. And I think a listening session with customer success managers where you're really understanding, like, okay, let's look at our market. What are the common problems? Because all of our customers are obviously going to be aligned in having common problems that we're looking to solve. Otherwise, they wouldn't be our customers. But, what are kind of the top priority problems? What are the top pieces of feedback that we're getting? Having those open levels of communication with the people who are on the ground, having call after call after call with customers every day, just gives such incredible insight. And vice versa, I think from a customer marketing standpoint, providing that transparency and that level of openness with the programs we're running, the campaigns we've got going on, what we're thinking about really helps develop that trust and build that confidence that, okay, I've got my accounts that I care a lot about, and customer marketing is reaching out to those accounts in a way that I understand. I know why they're doing it. I know what they're doing. And it really, I think, helps build that team feeling that we're all working together towards a common goal rather than driving any sort of like protectiveness, if that makes sense.
Yeah, completely. And I think, just highlighting again that extensive amount of feedback that you're gathering day in, day out, and really harnessing that. And looking at how that's feeding back into kind of your next immediate plan and stuff like that is an absolute no-brainer. But what I also really appreciate in what you're just planning out then is the continuous nature of that, because every conversation you have, every season or quarter brings new challenges, brings new trends, new releases, so there will be a constant stream of different things to harness for both success and marketing teams. Super interesting way that you guys are running it there. Awesome.
Yeah, and I think kind of my last takeaway, I think can kind of be all one, which is understanding from both perspectives, both sort of a customer success perspective and a customer marketing perspective, what the customer life cycle looks like and what communications are mapping to those different parts of the life cycle. And that sounds like a little amorphous, so I can be a little bit more explicit. So, as at a Cloud Guru, I worked with customer success as well as sales and product. But, it kind of started from the customer marketing and success perspective. We worked to develop a customer lifecycle map. Our product is sold typically on an annual basis as an annual subscription. So we kind of started there, right? So, but understanding, okay, from the customer success perspective, from the customer marketing perspective, as a part of a broader kind of marketing lifecycle funnel, what are the different stages that a customer goes to? And what are the milestones that indicate those stages and moving from one to another? What's the goal of each stage? Okay, so onboarding, great. Who handles onboarding? How long should onboarding last? How do we know that a customer has been onboarded? When can we say, okay, check, they move from onboarding to, we have our second lifecycle stages, engagement. Okay, so what are the kind of bottom line metrics that we want to see in engagement, right? And then kind of getting deeper into an adoption phase, then looking at retention and advocacy, but understanding and being really clear on, from a customer success standpoint, when do they start retention reach outs? When do they start expansion reach outs? Similarly, from a customer marketing perspective, what do these different life cycles look like? Because then once we've got that foundation, we can start building our nurture sequences, our nurture programs and campaigns to be really targeted to those different life cycle stages. And customer success is also driving communication to those life cycle stages. So we're very, very much in alignment, reinforcing and reiterating the same message. I think that's where we've seen so much success. Like everyone in customer communication knows, like you have to say the same thing 100 times and then 100 more times to make sure to really, really get messages across. And so I think what we've found is using that joint capabilities of one-to-many and one-to-one to reinforce those message, to open up those feedback channels. That's where we've really seen those customer results really, really shine.
Amazing. That's super interesting. And yeah, I think there's so many different routes for communicating and methods to communicating with customers as well, that it's like a whole nother kind of field to think about of who's getting the message out where and when. And yeah, like you said, repetition is key. Awesome. That kind of wraps up all my questions. But yeah, I just wanted to say thanks very much for joining us. And if you have anything else to add, then feel free. Otherwise, it would be great if you could let people know how they can potentially connect with you further, find out more about Cloud Guru and what you're doing there as a customer marketing team. And yeah, all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I am very much on LinkedIn, so you can always find me there. Taylor Page, I work at a Cloud Guru. And yeah, I would love to connect with everyone. I love talking about customer marketing, talking about customer success. And I have so many more stories to share. As my grandmother said, I am pretty chatty, never have ever run out of words to say. So yeah, would love to chat with anyone. If you've got questions or ideas about how to partner with customer success, would love to hear it.
Awesome. Thanks for that open invite. And yeah, thanks again for joining us, Taylor. I hope everyone really got a lot out of that session. We are going to be right back with another talk, so stay tuned.
Hi, everybody. My name is Gal. I'm CEO and co-founder at Cravocate. So excited to have you here on the Customer Marketing Summit this year. It's great. So many people are meeting together, sharing best practices, knowledge, and networking. I recommend that you find at least one thing that you can implement even in Q4 this year in your company, which would be great. I also invite you to join our customer marketing Slack group together with HubSpot. Just reach out to us and we'll add you in. And to come to my session later today is going to talk about 7 things I've learned from some of the greatest customer marketers out there. Enjoy.
Hey everyone, I'm Bree Bunzel coming to you live from Sydney, Australia. Over the course of my career, I've had experience in PMM, brand marketing, field marketing, and now focused on all things customer marketing. I'm excited to share more about my new Customer Advisory Board Masterclass. I learned about the importance of customer centricity at a young age of 7 when I didn't have the right audience, messaging, positioning, and pricing in mind for my neighborhood lemonade stand. My market researcher father was not impressed with the poorly located stand, undervalued 10 cents cup of lemonade, and it was there that I began my 101 lesson on understanding customers. Since then, I've had the chance to work for a lot of incredible customer-centric companies, learning the frameworks and the value of customer visits, experiences and events that fuel feedback loops and drive the overall company strategy. My team and I at Dropbox built the first customer advisory board program globally, and I've created a blueprint for running a successful CAB, all taught in this new CAB masterclass. CABs are an essential part and component of shaping your strategic framework for not only your product, but also your overall company strategy. This course will also help you understand the strategic benefits of a CAB, help you get business buy-in from stakeholders, and provide the right templates and guidelines to build a better customer advisory board experience for your customers. You'll have a chance to learn best practices to drive engagement among your members, both virtual as well as in person, and you'll learn how to best incorporate those customer insights into your company feedback loops. You'll hear from CAB experts at Asana, Adobe, Zendesk, LinkedIn, and the Product Marketing Alliance. It'll be filled with 3 hours of content, 13 chapters, 3 exclusive templates, and an official Brand Spankin' New certification to seal the deal. I hope to see you there. Whether you're joining a Product Marketing Alliance event for the first time, or if you're a seasoned regular, welcome to the second edition of the Customer Marketing Summit. Before we dive into the day's content, we just want to say a huge thank you to our sponsors, partners, speakers, and you, our lovely audience. From wherever you are watching in the world, we're sure you'll enjoy the sessions from our incredible lineup. With expert presentations, specialist talks, and deep dive panel sessions on the agenda, you are in for a real treat today. To get the most out of these sessions, please ensure you are sharing your feedback and asking all your questions in the comments section, and our speakers will be answering them throughout the day. After the event, a great place to continue the conversation is in the customer marketing channel in the PMA Slack community. If you aren't already a member, hop on over and come and join the discussion. And if that's still not enough, then why not become a PMA Pro member and benefit from unlimited access to exclusive templates, frameworks, and our entire library of videos and slide decks from all our events. So with all that to come, let's dive right into the next session.
Welcome, folks, online and joining us or listening to us. Today we have Trisha Diamond from Fiverr. The summit is all about customer marketing. Other chats in the summit will go into the definitions of customer marketing and all. Today, we're going to explore the unique way Fiverr has structured its group for success. I'm Sai Chavali, product marketing at Proofpoint, one of the largest cybersecurity vendors out there. And today we're going to talk about how Fiverr's unique model has helped their company for growth. And so Trisha, Director of Customer Success at Fiverr, has built and nurtured a unique model of customer marketing from 2015 to now. So let's learn more from her directly. Trisha, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, Sai, thank you. I think you introduced me perfectly, but my name's Trisha Diamond. I'm from Fiverr. Fiverr is an online marketplace. What we do is we connect businesses with freelancers that offer digital services. And we're running this in about 400 categories. So it's a huge variety of business that happens on our platform.
I love it. Okay, so let's dive right in. You'll call this group customer success, but it's different from traditional account management, support, and marketing. So tell us more.
Yeah, so in one part, we had to be different because we're a unique environment. You know, you hear customer success a lot with SaaS companies. And as I said, we're a marketplace. And what our customer success managers do is we're here to help ensure the success of both the freelancers that use Fiverr to earn and also the businesses that are leveraging the platform to purchase services. Basically, we want to help them get the most out of it. When I need to explain it very fast, I usually say that we're acting as consultants for people that use Fiverr.
Nice. So can we just double click into what's unique there?
Yeah.
In this space?
So we're far from customer service. Like, we don't answer tickets, or when you think account management, you think managing like a large portfolio of revenue and things like that. But we're really more focused on the experience, or kind of like experience managers, although I should not be inventing a new industry while we chat today. But like really, like our purpose is to ensure that both sides of the marketplace operate effectively. We're it's an automatic platform. Buyers and sellers can find each other without us, but we step in to really make sure that everyone is happy and gets the most out of it.
So you mentioned how it's unique in using some personalization. Can you tell us how it's different from just, and what parts of customer marketing are involved in customer service then?
Yeah, so I guess when you think about customer marketing, a lot of things might come to mind, whether it's retention emails, in-app pop-ups, social media, dozens and dozens of formats. And all of this, like, we do this with the goal of educating our customers and then rewarding them for doing the things that we want them to do. But we use the human touch, and we take this whole funnel and we put it into like one place. Like, our success managers, they actually take the time to speak to each customer, to help them through like any aspect of their journey. And like, if they're selling, for example, instead of sending marketing emails that explain how to sell better or faster or more, like, we're actually sitting down with them, optimizing their profile, looking at how they work with customers with them, and really educating them in a personal way to do this better.
I love it. So, when we were talking offline around this, the way I had understood it, and it was naive in my understanding, was it's an addition of customer marketing plus upsells. But what in our discussions, what's changed is y'all are really helping those freelancers throughout the process just build a better business. That you're impacted and Fiverr's healthier.
Right. Yeah. There's not much of a traditional upsell model. Basically, the more that our freelancers or our business buyers are using the platform, the more successful we are as a business. So basically, we help them engage and use it better and use it more efficiently. So we're not even having to upsell. We're just helping people, and it helps the business as well.
Yeah. And I think that breaks my very B2B structured world. So that's very unique. Now, We talked about how you do it. How's the team structured to deliver on this promise?
So we're structured with like a few considerations in mind. First is like the type of customer. A success manager that works with the freelancer is different one than one that works with a small business, or a large business might see a different success manager. From there, of course, we're considering location. We'll even look at verticals, like someone who specializes in graphic and design versus programming and tech, as an example. But most importantly, like we involve the customer in that decision. Like we make sure they're there with us and that we have a personality match, because this is about relationships.
Nice. So we've talked a bit about the structure and the goals. I want some stories. So how did this all begin? What was the inspiration of this? Why was it so important to Fiverr?
So first, Fiverr is really all about its community. Like we are truly a customer-centric organization, and we wanted to know more about our customers. So in 2015, we formed this department. Where did we start? We decided almost just randomly, that's not fair, it's not random, but like we had a lot of areas of opportunity. So we picked one, and that was with our top rated freelancers on the marketplace. So of course, first we were taking inspiration from SaaS companies. Of course, Salesforce is a common name that's there, like they're big in this industry. But I was also really looking at companies like eBay. Like how did they support the growth of the people that sold on their marketplace, or Etsy, or looking at other marketplaces. Even though Fiverr is unique in that it's digital services, we were able to learn a lot from these physical good companies. Because in the end, because we're a unique organization, we kind of had to innovate, like the traditional principles that you hear about in customer success or account management. Going back to what we mentioned before, we had to flex the rules a little bit and find out what worked for us.
I love it. So we're getting into a bit more of the stories. I'm going to push you further. Let's try and crystallize this with how you do it for the listeners out there. Let's start with a model applying some of the customer marketing framework, but understanding what's unique and what's changed for y'all. Let's start with just identifying your sweet spot or ideal customers. How do you do that? How does this whole process begin?
Yeah. So we work very closely with our data teams, and we've definitely evolved this over the years. We're never done. We're always learning from ourselves, but we've developed some algorithms in a way that look at customers' patterns and really helps us detect like who is high potential, who might be very engaged. Even if they're very new to the platform, we're looking at patterns to understand like who we should connect with. But like, it's not just data. Like we actually ask them, like we can see high potential customers and we can reach out, but if they're not really interested in connecting with us, it doesn't mean anything. This relationship-based model only works if we're connected with each other and if the customer's engaged in the process.
Something you mentioned there that kind of made me just think about it a bit more is the collaboration that this brings. What are the teams that you're collaborating with through this process? Who are the teams internally? You mentioned data analytics or the data science teams, but it seems like this takes a kind of a village to really make well.
Definitely. And I would say that customer success at Fiverr, we're connected with everybody. I mean, no big surprise because we're talking now about marketing, but also product and goodness, I can't think actually of a department that we're not connected with, because we're also, not only are they helping us like build this unit, but we're bringing back information to Fiverr about like what do our customers need, what are their pain points even, what can we do, what marketing resonates with them, everything. Like it is a village, and it has two-way traffic.
No, I'm very interested in this model because as a product marketer, I would see the customer success team as providing very, very valuable intelligence in terms of what's happening. What are people actually adopting?
Yeah.
And so that's very interesting to me. Yeah. So moving from identifying your sweet spot, Let's move to awareness, or what we would think of as kind of marketing. How do you make them aware of what Fiverr has to offer, how Fiverr can help them grow their own businesses and solve their problems better?
Yeah, so I mean, we're so closely connected with our customers. We're speaking with them regularly. Like we really, really know them. And like we know their strengths, we know or their weaknesses or what they're less comfortable with. And when new features or tools or promotions or anything becomes available, of course, we want the entire portfolio of people we work with to know. Like we want everybody to be available for every opportunity. But we're also able to take that knowledge that we have and really concentrate our efforts like into a certain area that this is, I know businesses that are really looking to collaborate in an order in a very specific way. And as we enhance that, I can go right to those people, spend the time, demo it for them, and those that we don't know need as much, like, of course, we'll do traditional emails and things like that, but we come in to really make it clear, answer the questions, and then bring back to our teams internally what was working for them and what was not so intuitive.
Right. And I guess from there, you make them aware, you help them, you work with them very closely. There's a big portion of customer marketing that's around advocacy.
Yeah.
How do you gain Fiverr advocates, and how do you even keep in touch with them after you've helped them and grown their business and they can kind of move on?
Yeah, so advocacy is actually my favorite part. It's where I feel like we're stronger than anywhere else. It's because I think that human touch is natural to bring customers closer to your brand. Like if you think about it, if you know Fiverr or like a certain chain of stores, whatever that is, that's great. You know the name, that's an important first step. But if you know the brand and then you can connect your association with that brand with a face, with a voice, with a personality and a relationship that you have, it becomes so much stronger because it's not just like Fiverr. It's like, it's Fiverr, but there's also Brandon, and Brandon takes care of me and understands what I'm going through, like in my business. And to keep it going, honestly, our CSMs, we're in constant communication with our customers. Of course, a lot of it's via email, but we are on video calls all day, just like you and I are, Sai. Like this is what we do with our customers. We're a global company, so we can't meet a lot of people face to face, but oh, believe me, I'm located in Orlando, lots of tourism, and as soon as somebody's coming to Disney World, we're inviting them into the office with us.
That's so interesting. The global portion, I actually wanted to understand a bit more around that, which is, did you find any differences or surprising similarities between the customer success initiatives in various parts of the world? Is it different by culture? Any unique things that you'll had to kind of really observe depending on the geography?
Oh, that's a great question. So for sure, there's definitely cultural differences, but I think what was most surprising to me is that like in the end, we're all humans and we're all looking to create a connection and we're looking to work with somebody who understands us and our journey. And the cultural barrier almost doesn't feel like it's there most of the time. I know that might sound like hyperbole, but really like we're all kind of in this world together. So, and it really shows when I can connect with someone anywhere in the world and very quickly we can understand each other because we share Fiverr as a common thread.
I love it. That really speaks to the strength of the work that y'all are doing, which is many times the problems, whether in the US or in another part of the world, are going to be the same, even if they're using different languages to conduct their business.
Yeah.
So I guess if we are trying to understand a bit more, and I want to kind of push us in terms of some of the stories that you might have in this, whether you're comfortable sharing any of the kind of customer stories that have gone through this journey with y'all.
Yeah. I mean, buckle in. I've got about 8 hours of content here if you're ready for it. It's so hard to choose one, so I'm going to go with just the first one that popped into my mind. And it started early, and this is somebody that I still work with after 6 years. They work in writing and translation on Fiverr. this was sort of like a part-time like side hustle for them. They had their full-time job, but a little extra money on the side, but very like great. Most of our, of course, all of our freelancers are great quality, but I really recognize something special in this person. And, slowly over time, we sort of looked at like what they were doing on the platform, what tools we could help them leverage, because they had to balance between their full-time work and this sort of night job, if you will. And as we looked at the different tools and how they could leverage them, and then we optimized both their offerings on the marketplace and how they communicated and how they did their own like upsells and retention to their customers, it grew over time from being just a small like few $100s a month to $15,000 or so every single month. And of course, that is amazing for the freelancer, that I'm speaking about. But it's also great for Fiverr's business. We have a seller who's very successful. We have that we can also give to our buyers, and we know that they'll have a perfect experience, if not better than perfect experience, working with. So it's great for Fiverr. It's great for everybody involved. And that's why we stuck with the name Customer Success, even though we sort of changed around the principles a little bit.
Yeah, that speaks to kind of internally also in your own growth, taking the feedback and learning. So let's finish up with what's the future state? What's the future looking like, and some tips for our listeners. So first of all, what sorts of organizations is this best for that you would recommend adopt such a model, or at least take some of your best practices?
Yeah. Honestly, I think any organization of any type can benefit from like this blend of course, our automated digital side and the human element that customer success brings to it. Of course, the way that we do it is perfect for two-sided marketplaces, because the company, Fiverr, we provide a platform for the connection, like any other marketplace. And having customer success, bringing somebody in that can sort of step in when the platform steps to the side to ensure that experience is a positive one, is perfect. With any business, if your customer comes and they have a bad experience, you're going to lose that customer for life. But with customer success, that buyer, that freelancer, that customer, they have the option of working with a real person to ensure that the experience is not only successful, but it's like more meaningful than it would be if they went somewhere else. But again, really, any business can benefit from being more personal with their customers.
Great. And pivoting to, for an organization looking to start on this journey, any tips or best practices, or some of the hard lessons that you're taking from any hard knocks?
Yeah. So, there are a ton of resources out there, like online articles, videos, TED Talks. There's great advice. But the one thing that I would say, if I could pick one thing, is that you should actually talk to your customers when you're forming this. This is so often overlooked. But I really want to encourage anyone thinking about doing this to get to know your customers. Maybe bring them in for roundtables, do some one-on-one interviews, and ask them what they need. Like, ask them what your company could do to make their experience more meaningful, more successful, and really help them feel connected with your brand and that your brand is there for them.
I love it. Actually, I did want to ask you, any hard knocks that you all took in this journey, building this group up? Anything that you learned from that, that you could speak of? Always useful, because nothing is just a path of roses.
Yeah. So absolutely, like, we've been doing this for 6 years, and we've definitely learned some hard lessons along the way. And a lot of that sometimes is in how we engage with our customers. Sort of, we had the assumption that everybody wants to talk to us. So we're just going, you know what, like, we'll invite them to Zoom meetings, we'll email them, and I'll just say, hey, I'm Trisha and I'm here for you. Like, when do you want to talk? Yep. And this assumption many times, and even still sometimes today, kind of bites us on the behind. But it's really important to go through these steps and try different methods that work with different customers. This is something unique to Fiverr, but just to put it in context, we were emailing a lot of people to try to get a hold of them and had very low adoption and success rates there. But we have an inbox on the platform. So we decided instead of trying to meet the customer in their inbox, we would meet them where they are, our own little version of an in-app pop-up, and we would send them a message on their inbox. And from there, we saw a lot more success. And working with them, and instead of asking them, when do you want to have a Zoom call, saying like, what's good for you? Like, how can I help you? And what's the best way for you to talk to me? And, we adopted all sorts of interesting methods with our customers for that. We even have shared Slack groups for some of our customers that they said, no, this is what works for me because I'm on Slack all day.
I love it. I think the emphasis on meeting the customer where they are and then making the ask, as well as the multiplicity of ways that you connect with somebody, because at some point in the day, this might make more sense. I might just be more available and not doing a job at that point.
Absolutely. Try and try again, and do not give up, because you will find the way.
I love it. I love it. So Trisha, I'd like to also check in with, when we're talking about collaborators, any tips for customer marketers when working with product teams, for example?
Yes. So one thing that is very important, we find, because in customer success, it's all qualitative data that we have because it's coming from speaking with the customers. What we do is we also partner with a data team once again, so they can kind of bring in the quantitative data, like who's using what features, how much are they using it, how quickly do they stop using it? And then we go to the customers and we ask them, like, hey, like, why aren't you using this? What's working? What's not working? And that way, when we come to the product team, we come with a really full story, and we're able to make a very strong case on behalf of our customers. And actually, by the way, I do want to mention that even though this is a very personalized relationship we're talking about, when we need to do things at scale, like ask specific questions about a specific feature, we're not afraid to use automation. It's okay to take these outreaches and make them automatic. It can still be personal, but do them en masse, and just have the human being ready on the other side when somebody's ready to reply for that.
I love the nuance there, and I'm sure the product team just loves having both the qualitative and the quantitative data at their fingertips to make decisions.
I hope so.
Very, very useful. Well, that's what we have time for. So I'd just like to end with thanking Trisha and Fiverr for spending time with us on unique models of customer marketing in fast-growing companies. So thank you, Trisha.
Sai, thank you. This was great. Are you sure we can't talk longer?